All right, welcome everyone. Welcome back to today's training. This is Real Estate Objection Handling. I'm Brett Matsura. So today's objection that we're going to be covering is, drum roll please, we're going to wait until spring. So here's the thing with this one, guys, is if you haven't gotten this objection, you're not talking to enough people, because this objection comes up a lot. Now, as I'm doing this training, for those of you that aren't watching this live, this is being done in January, end of January. And the objections that come up are, I want to wait until spring. So we're going to talk about that. But I first want to talk to you guys about two common truths that I come up with. Okay, so these are, like I said, these are two common truths. And one of those is, in the history of everything, no one has ever gotten better at anything without practice. Natural ability will only take you so far. I mean, pick a quote, pick a superstar, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods. Every one of them had a very strong work ethic, and they had natural ability, but they practiced. And they know that they don't practice, they don't get better. And then the second common truth is you'll never perform at a level in which you'll never perform at a level higher than the level in which you practice, right? So if you don't practice, you're not going to perform at a level higher than what you don't practice, right? You're just winging it. But if you're practicing and you're just kind of, like going to the gym, you want to bulk up and get mass, and you're going to the gym and all you're doing is walking on the treadmill, look, that's only going to take you so far. You're just going through the motions. You need to practice at the level in which you want to perform, which is why we have this role-playing group. So if you're here on the training, I love the fact that you guys are here on the training. But if you're not part of the role-playing group, or if you don't have a role-playing group, you don't have to be part of our group. Just have a partner to role-play daily. Okay, you can join right up here, realestateroleplaying.com. We have 3 groups that you can role-play in on the daily. So there's no reason for you not to practice. So let's dive in today's objection. We're going to wait until spring. So let's pre-frame this. Okay, you're having a conversation with somebody. Could be an SOI, could be an expired, it could be anyone, right? The key criteria is that they got to own a home, they want to sell it, and they got to live in your primary area. Okay, so I'm in Irvine, California. I'm in Orange County, California. I'm not interested in selling houses in San Francisco. So if someone wants to sell a home, owns a home and wants to sell a home in San Francisco, that's not my primary market area. That's something that you want to refer out to an agent in that area, right? So your focus is having conversations with people who live in your primary market area. And what I coach and train on is 3 to 5 miles from where you live would be your primary market area. They own a home and they want to sell it. Now you're coming up and you're having a conversation with someone and they say, you know what, Brett, thanks for talking. We think that you're great. You're awesome. But, we want to wait until spring to sell. So what are you going to say? Right? So if this was a friend, if this was someone who you had rapport with, if I was talking to you, or maybe if you were talking to a friend, a relative, a cousin, whatnot, the first thing that you're going to say, remember, conversational selling is about being conversational. And it's about knowing the way that the structure of communication goes so that you can actually communicate like they're a person. So the question that you're going to ask, say, look, I totally get that. If you don't mind me asking, what's so important about waiting until spring? I mean, think about it, guys. What's so important about waiting until spring? Now let's back up a little bit here. Now, depending on where you're at, we have the role-playing group, and those of you who are watching this, we have the largest North American role-playing group. We have members across all the time zones. So depending on your market, this may or may not true, but I think the way that I look at the situation, it's probably more true. You see, right now, in my market at least, in Orange County, there's literally 1.5 months of supply on the market. I looked at it yesterday. Literally, if no new homes come onto the market, we will deplete our inventory in 1.5 months. It's like homes got turned into the new iPhone. There are people lining up, right? Things are selling before the seller even thinks about selling. That's how fast things are selling right now. So right now, in the history of, again, forever, there has never been a better time to sell your home, because there's a 100% probability that if a seller sells their home right now, right this minute, next 30 days, 45 days, that they're going to gross and probably net the most money that they ever possibly could. Okay. Now let's look at this on the other, going down in spring. Look, guys, if you guys have watched my videos, or if you guys have talked to me, you guys know my position on the market. And here I'm going to share it with you again. Look, there are some really, really, really smart people on one side of this whole equation of the economy, of COVID, of what's going on, that thinks that our recovery is just going to continue to skyrocket in 2021. Okay. There are people who think that. Now, but there are some equally as smart people and successful people that think the exact opposite, right? That this is like the last hurrah, and that we're going to see some major adjustments. Now, I'm kind of in that crowd, because there's a lot of downward pressure on prices. You know, the only reason why things are going crazy is because we have these ridiculously low interest rates. And I think a lot of people will agree that it's because the Federal Reserve is providing money. But all that aside, without embedding your opinion on things, you have to agree that one of those people are going to be wrong. One of those smart people are going to be wrong, right? So here's the thing. A seller right now has a 100% probability that they're going to sell their home for the most money and net the most money right here, right now. And they're going to take a 50-50 gamble in the future. We know what their here and now is. Okay. We can navigate today. Everything that we're looking at 30, 60, 90, 120 days, second half of the year, that's all speculation. Okay. I might be right. Someone else might be right. Someone else might be wrong. Look, we don't know. But what we can probably agree on is that there's a 100% probability right now, if they sell, they'll net the most money. Remember, sellers, they want to sell their home for the most money in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. And all of those things can happen right now in today's market. And if you wait till spring, if you wait till summer, well, now what's going to happen is that you're taking a 50-50 gamble that maybe you might be able to sell it, net the same amount of money, sell it for the main price. But you know what? There's a 50% chance that things might disconnect by then as well. Right? So going back to the script, you've got to ask them. And they go, hey, Brett, we're going to wait until spring before we sell our house. Okay, look, that makes a lot of sense. In fact, using the ultimate rebuttal formula, that makes total sense. In fact, I've talked to a few sellers, or a bunch of sellers that kind of feel the same way. But if you don't mind me asking, what is it to you that's so special about selling in the spring? What's in it? What is so important for you to sell in the spring than doing it right now? Well, we just figured that, whatever the reason is, input the reason. It might be a condition. It might be an objection. Look, if they're just wanting to just wave it out and just see what happens with COVID, that's probably the last thing somebody wants to do. Look, when you're in a pandemic, when you're in a crisis, and things are going sideways, and it's not normal, and there's a lot of uncertainty, the last thing you want to do is speculate, because the odds of a bad thing, a bad outcome, increases as the time expands. So here's the thing. We've had low inventory. We've had low rates, which is increased buyer demand. So that's what's fueling all of this massive buying. But what happens when all these people who want to wait until after COVID, and all these people, this isn't the only seller that wants to wait until spring. This isn't the only seller that wants to wait and see what happens with COVID. This isn't the only seller who wants to get vaccinated, whatever, right? But what happens if all of those group of people, all of those sellers, because we know that there's a reduction of inventory, what happens when all of those guys start coming to the market, right? That's going to start relieving a lot of pressure. And when you relieve pressure, that's going to change things as far as how fast somebody can sell their home and how much they can sell it for. Right? You need to know this information. You need to practice this information if you're going to deliver that information to a potential seller. Because you know what? These sellers, the average person in most areas, they don't move except once every decade. In my market, it's probably closer to once every 14 years, unless it's kind of more like a first-time home buyer. Then, you're probably in that decade range. They're not in the business, right? The only thing that they're seeing is what's on the news. You're in the market. Your job is to solve problems, and there's a problem right here. There's a big problem right here. You go back to the motivation, and that sellers, they want to sell their home for the most money, the quickest amount of time, with the least amount of hassle. And if you sell right now, all three of those, there's 100% probability that will happen. Not if you list the price 50% over value, but that's a whole different conversation. Right, guys? So when we go back into this rebuttal and we start looking at this, we're going to wait until spring to sell. The first thing you have to ask is, using the ultimate rebuttal formula, you have to acknowledge what they say. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Share with me. Oh, so you want to wait until spring. And then you make them right? I've talked to a lot of sellers. They feel the same way. In fact, a lot of people want to wait until spring or maybe summer or after COVID, and then do a softener. Don't mind me asking, and then ask them a question. What is it about spring that's important to you about waiting until that long? Why not sell it right now? And wait for them to answer, because this isn't an objection. Right? It is an objection, but it's a really surface level objection, right? Waiting till spring is not the core root of why. Why are you wanting to wait till spring? That's the objection. The condition. It might be that they want to, I have a job transfer. Okay, now that's the objection. Now we have to work on that objection, right? We have to deal with this front end objection, low level objection, so we can actually get to an actual real meat, like what I call a level 2 objection. They might say something like, well, look, man, I got to tell you, this COVID thing freaks me out. And I think as things are going, that it will probably be, a little bit better come spring. Okay. Now you can deal with that, right? Exactly how we just talked about it. Say, look, that makes total sense. You use the ultimate rebuttal formula. Look, that makes total sense. In fact, a lot of homeowners are in that same position. But if you don't mind me asking, and then you go in and you rebuttal that objection, right? If they're waiting until COVID, how long do you think that it's going to be until COVID passes? Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, most homeowners that I talk to, they want three things. They want to sell their home for the most money in the quickest amount of time for the least amount of hassle. Is that true for you as well? Well, yes, Brett, it is. Okay, so if I could share with you a financial advantage on why it's more risky to try to sell it in the spring than actually taking advantage of the hot market right now, would that change things for you? It might not change things for them, guys, but it might. And you're not going to be able to actually dig deep to that motivation if you're one of those salespeople that they say, when you get the objection, we're going to wait until spring. Okay, so can I just call you back on February 27th? No, right? You're the professional. These people have a problem. They don't know they have a problem, which are the best problems to solve. Because I promise you, if you're practicing this and you're having these conversations with these sellers, nobody else is having these conversations. Not unless you're in this group, not unless you're following this, because I talk to a lot of real estate agents and, work with them on their skill development. And I would say that the majority of people don't ask these questions, and they're important questions to ask. So today's objection, we're going to wait until spring, so you guys have time to kind of practice it out. And so you guys have time to get with your role-playing partner so you guys can practice this out today. If you don't have a role-playing partner, then again, go to realestateroleplaying.com, right there, and to get signed up for next week. But practice this out, right? It doesn't matter what opening you use. It doesn't matter if it's an expired listing. It doesn't matter what opening script you use. Just go into the objection and just say, look, I'm going to wait until spring. Hey, we're going to wait until spring until we sell their home. Okay, look, I totally get it. A lot of homeowners are thinking they want to wait until spring. If you don't mind me asking, what's the reason for you to wait until spring instead of taking advantage of today's hot market? Wait for them to answer. And then whatever objection they come up, whatever the reason they come up, make a list of what the most likely, most common objection comes up after that. Could be a job transfer, could be COVID, could be school. I mean, it could be a variety of different things. In your market, in your mind, start writing down what the most common response is going to be, and then practice the crap out of those rebuttals. So, all right, guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you for taking the time to come in and watch this. If you're catching this on YouTube, please smash that like button for me so that the algorithm will help this reach out to other people. Subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of upcoming videos, and get out there, make some contacts, have some conversations, take listing, and close some deals. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.